In this video, I'm going to be talking about stock units versus upgraded units and unit upgrades. In the previous video, I mentioned that the bonus versus cavalry on spears is gone, and they have a length of 2. The same thing with bonus versus infantry. Now, bonuses are not completely gone, they are very much there, and that's why I wanted to make a separate video about it. If we take a look at the army here, and let's have a look at some spears. For example, the Triarii. Their standard leaf-head spear comes with a 21 melee attack versus cavalry and 47 melee damage. If you upgrade this spear, they now get an increase, a bonus versus everything of 10 melee attack and 20 melee damage, but the increase to damage against cavalry increases to 40 melee attack and 88 melee damage. Now there are some other upgrades for sword units. Let's say I, for example, take the Army Legionaries, a unit that I actually have for once, and this is going to give them plus 15 melee attack, plus 14 missile damage, and plus 33 melee, but not specifically against anything. Whereas, if we look at the Veteran Legionaries and their starting Londinium Gladius, that doesn't come with any bonuses against anything. But once you upgrade the Pompey Gladius, it gives you 31 against all, 30 melee attack against all, and at the final upgrade, it gives you a specific 8 melee attack against swords, specific 8 melee attack against spears, and a 25 melee attack and 8 melee attack versus all. However, that is not specifically a bonus versus, because a flat bonus versus would mean that it both increases melee attack and melee damage versus certain units. So moving on to the Retiarius Gladiators here, they have a spear that gives them a massive 40 melee defense, 63 melee attack, and 188 melee damage against cavalry. So not a flat bonus, and that's what I meant with bonus versus is gone. There are still very much bonuses versus different unit types in the game, but they are broken down to melee defense, melee attack, melee damage, and so on. And some upgrades even penalize you, so you will get slower, you will get a reduction against some units, and you will get an increase against other units. Now, if you look at one of the units that has this flat bonus versus, it has a bonus of 8, but once you upgrade their weapons to the fine Pompey Gladius doesn't show up with any bonuses, but we know it has a bonus of 8 against everything. So this, or against infantry. So the superior Pompey Gladius is going to give them a 17 melee attack and 39 melee damage against everything. But once you upgrade to the pattern welded Pompey Gladius, you're going to get a plus 12 melee attack versus swords and plus 25 melee damage versus swords. So it makes them quite a bit better against sword units. And the same thing can be said for cavalry. For example, for this Praetorian cavalry, it starts out with a decorated cavalry spear that gives them no bonuses. The next upgrade gives them plus 8 melee attack and plus 11 damage versus cavalry, and bonuses versus everything. And the weighted masterwork cavalry spear gives them a 21 melee attack and 32 melee damage versus cavalry. So talking about stock units and talking about upgraded units is very different in Total War Arena, because upgrades can now make a unit that otherwise wasn't very good at handling swords, it can make them significantly better at handling swords, or conversely, a unit that wasn't too strong against spears can now become strong against spears. A unit that wasn't too good against cavalry can have a 181 damage increase against cavalry, which of course is massive. So knowing what you want to use your units for in Total War Arena is extremely important, because some of these weapons come with no bonuses against anything, whereas when you upgrade them, they can become quite good. So if we, for example, look at the Greek side here, let's see here, let's have Alexander and the Citizen Cavalry. Their first spear has a bonus only against missile infantry. The second spear also has a damage increase against all, whereas the third spear gives them an increase in 21 melee attack and 29 melee damage versus cavalry, which is, compared to their starting stats, it's a more than a 10% increase in melee attack, damage versus cavalry. And if you look at their melee attack stat, the melee attack is 121. It's more than a 10% increase in melee attack as well. So whereas very few units come equipped with weapons that have bonuses versus anything, quite a few of these upgraded weapons do come with bonuses versus something. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, there are also, like I mentioned, upgrades that penalize you in some way. So if I pick Germanicus and have a look at the Armored Legionaries, for example, if I upgrade to the Feather-Crested Italic Helmet, I'm going to be minus 6% speed. If I upgrade to the Manica Segmentata, I'm going to be at minus 12% speed, so now I'm at minus 18% speed. If I upgrade to the Cohort Scutum, I'm going to be minus 12 as well, so minus 30% speed, and the Bending Shank Pilum. So now, having all of these upgrades is going to make my units very tanky, but I'm at a massive minus 42% speed, brought down to minus 36% speed by bringing the Iron Greaves. But still, imagine this unit of Armored Legionaries moving through the forest. They're going to be moving so slow that it looks like they have a walking animation when they are in fact running. So if I wanted my Armored Legionaries to be a bit faster, I would just give them the Sturdy Lorica, I would just give them the Scutum, I would give them the Fine Ashwood Pilum, I would give them the Iron Greaves, the Polished Italic Helmet. But look at what that does to their stats here. So they get a significant decrease in armor. Let's just compare the stock Armored Legionaries to fully upgraded Armored Legionaries. You can see their upgrades in green here. I'm going to lose 46 armor, I'm going to lose 15 melee attack, I'm going to lose 18 melee defense, and I'm going to be losing 52 weapon damage. So at that point, if I come up against fully upgraded Armored Legionaries and Vengeance is popped, increasing melee damage by 80% and increasing melee attack by 80%, I'm going to be losing out on a lot of damage, but the trade-off is that my units are faster. So when you upgrade units in Total War Arena, you really have to consider what you want them to be able to do, because stock units are underwhelming versions of themselves, but some upgrades make the units more powerful but also more problematic to use, like these Scythian archers. They have a missile block of 25. Now if I give them the Scythian helm, they're going to be having a missile block of 40. If I give them the Scaled Cuirass, they're going to be having a missile block of a massive 55. So they can take a lot of damage that way, but they're also going to be at minus 26% speed, which is potentially very, very bad for a skirmish unit. And the same goes for the Scythian Horn-Tipped Bow. If I give them the Scythian Horn-Tipped Bow, they're going to be firing more damaging missiles, but their range is going to be penalized significantly. And you'll see that some of these upgrades just lead to better equipment, but some of the upgrades lead to different units. So some people like to just rush for the higher unit, because that's going to be a better payoff in the end. I've leaned slightly towards upgrading the units completely to see what I can get out of them at their tier, and then go for the higher tier units. But when you look at how many units you have to grind, for example, starting out here with the Mycenaeans, then the Ionians, Toxotai, Scythians, Cimmerians, those, and then Peltasts, Royal Peltasts, Cretans, that's a whole lot of games and a whole lot of experience that is put into units you might not be using too much. But you can have some fun going into the lower tiers with upgraded units. It's just that I think most people prefer to upgrade and get just better units to compete better that way. So while the bonus versus is gone for a lot of stock equipment, some stock equipment has it, although it's gone for quite a few. Like here, the training spear has a bonus versus cavalry, but some units just lack the bonus versus cavalry on their spears, and I don't know whether that's because it hasn't been put in yet, or if it's intended that some units are supposed to not have a bonus versus cavalry on their spears. I just don't know. I guess we'll have to see, because the light hoplites, for example, the brittle spear has no bonus. Then for the myrmidons, they have a masterwork spear that gives them a bonus versus cavalry. The hoplites, their Ashwood spear gives them a bonus. The Spartan hoplites, Spear of Zeus actually gives them a very nice bonus versus cavalry. Thorax Hoplites start out with 47 melee damage against cavalry and end up with plus 52. So some units have very good starting stock equipment, whereas some units have stock equipment that doesn't give them that many bonuses. So the difference between coming up against a fully upgraded unit and a unit that is stock can be massive, because the fully upgraded unit is usually going to have bonuses versus what it's fighting, and the stock unit might entirely lack these bonuses, making it very hard for that unit to compete. Now, the big unknown factor here, of course, is the level of the commander commanding the unit. We'll take a deeper look at that in another video, but if you have a fully upgraded, let's say you have a fully upgraded Army Legionary with Germanicus that isn't upgraded well, let's just say they put all of their points into Testudo, then the Army Legionaries with the tier 10 cavalry, tier 10 heavy infantry charge and tier 10 vengeance can absolutely compete with that unit. Strength and honor.